As Halloween approaches, let's get into the spirits by examining a painting of three real life women as the witches in Shakespeare's Macbeth. Is 1775's The Three Witches from Macbeth the most glamorous painting of witches today?
Bubble, bubble, boil and trouble, fire burn, and cauldron bubble. Pour in cow's blood that has eaten her 9 farrow. Grease that's sweating from the murderer's gibbet, thrown to the flame. Finger of birth strangled babe. It's delivered by a drab. Make the cruel. Thick and slab. Like a hell broth, boil and bubble. For a charm of powerful trouble. When shall we three meet again? In thunder, lightning, or in rain? When the hurly-burly's done. When the battle's lost and won. That will be at the set of sun. There to meet with Macbeth.
According to the National Gallery of England, this unusual group portrait depicts three of the most politically influential and socially notorious women of the Regency period. They are, from left to right, the society ladies and political hostesses Elizabeth Lamb, Viscountess Melbourne, Georgiana, Duchess of Devonshire, and the sculptor Anne Seymour Damer. All sculptures shown in this presentation are by Damer. Elizabeth Lamb, Viscountess Melbourne, was the mother of Prime Minister William Lamb, who grew close to Queen Victoria in the early years of her reign. Viscountess Lamb, a very powerful political hostess, was also the mother-in-law of Lady Caroline Lamb, or Caro, an accomplished writer who is more well known as the lover of Lord Byron today. You can learn about Caro in her videos on this channel. Viscountess Lamb appears floating or flying in her long brown hair with pink wings and a black bat in her hair, a frightening black face behind her. Perhaps this was a jibe at her supposed lover, Lord Byron. She is the most colorful figure of the three, clothed in blue and pink. Red features in the Melbourne family crest, so it's possible that this coloring was originally red. Her blue dress is held together by a purple amethyst. The Lamb family had a collection of amethysts they bestowed upon Caroline Lamb for her wedding, and she wore them in her hair. The Viscountess Lamb offers some sort of blue herb to the cauldron. An orange cat, thrice the brinded cat hath mewed, according to Shakespeare, and a black ram head appear below her. Duchess Georgiana of Devonshire appears next, her blonde hair braided in the Persian Sufi style, with a small black witch's hat atop a diamond diadem resting on her white shawl. We can argue she was wearing the Spencer tiara, or a precursor of it with drop diamonds. Her dress is pinned by a diamond. The figure of a satyr appears in the smoke behind her, a disturbing omen, as Georgiana would die first of the three witches. She also drops an herb, maybe lavender, into the mixture. Anne Seymour Damer is next, holding a wand, wearing a witch's hat with blue flowers around its rim and golden sparkles in her black dress. Symbols of the zodiac, including the scales, Virgo, and the crab, appear below her waist. Potentially Gemini is the first sign in the rim, and Damer and Georgiana were both Gemini. Anne Seymour Damer, born in 1748, dying in 1828, was an English sculptor. She outlived her other two witch friends. Described as a female genius by Whig politician and author Horace Walpole, she was trained in sculpture by Giuseppe Ceracchi and John Bacon. Influenced by the Enlightenment, she was an author, traveler, theatrical producer, and actress, as well as an acclaimed sculptor. It's possible she was a member of the Blue Stocking Club for Intellectual Regency Women. As a testament to her high intellect, she signed her sculptures with her name in Greek. Damer exhibited regularly at the Royal Academy from 1784 until 1818, and she was a close friend to members of Georgian high society, including her occasional guardian, Whig politician Horace Walpole, and the Whig political leader Charles James Fox. It is believed Damer was in a relationship with the actress Elizabeth Farren, potentially before Farren's marriage into the Irish nobility. Farren performed in David Garrick's Bon Ton, and Macbeth was brought to the stage by Garrick to high acclaim during the Regency era. Damer was the oldest of the three so-called witches, born in 1748. Viscountess Melbourne was next, born in 1751, and she preferred her right side profile as it appears in many artworks of her. Duchess Georgiana was the youngest, as she was born in 1757. It's possible the noblewomen were trying to learn from sculptress Damer and attended classes she held, or they met her while working behind the scenes in Whig politics. In 1767, at the age of 19, Damer married John Damer, the son of Lord Milton, later the first Earl of Dorchester. The couple received an income of £5,000 from Lord Milton, a value of over £1 million today, and they were left large fortunes by Milton and General Henry Conway, Anne Damer's father. John Damer was described as a poor businessman who had a taste for expensive clothes. Their marriage was not successful. They had no children and separated after 7 years. John Damer killed himself in 1776, leaving considerable debts. As a widow, Damer benefited from a prenuptial agreement whereby her father-in-law was obliged to pay her £2,500 a year. Did she know about her husband's depression before she married him? The money allowed her to be financially independent and continue her artistic career while maintaining a full social life on a more intellectual plane than that of her earlier married years. She was a close friend of Josephine Bonaparte, and you can learn more about Empress Josephine's royal jewels on this channel. The pressure on Damer's husband may have inspired Daniel Gardner to paint Damer as a witch in 1775. Damer's childlessness contrasts to the Viscountess Melbourne, who had 9 children after being married at the age of 18, and Duchess Georgiana, who had at least 1 daughter after being married at the age of 17. The middle figure in the painting is arguably the most famous today. Georgiana, Duchess of Devonshire, read Jane Austen's novels, and you can learn more about the mysteries of Jane Austen on this channel. She was also the inspiration for the 2008 film The Duchess. The Duchess of Devonshire was called a phenomenon by Whig politician Horace Walpole, who was the guardian of Damer when her parents traveled abroad. Walpole proclaimed the Duchess of Devonshire, "She effaces all without being a beauty, but her youthful figure, flowing good nature, sense and lively modesty, and modest familiarity make her a phenomenon." Madame d'Arblay, who had a preference for acquaintances of talent, found her appeal was not generally for her beauty, but for far more, which included her fine manner, politeness, and gentle quiet. Sir Nathaniel Wraxall stated her success as an individual lay in the amenity and graces of her deportment, in her irresistible manners, and the seduction of her society. Famously, when the Duchess was stepping out of her carriage, an Irish dustman exclaimed, "Love and bless you, my lady, let me light my pipe in your eyes." Thereafter, whenever others would compliment her, the Duchess would respond, "After the dustman's compliment, all others are insipid." Her beauty may have been a large inspiration for the painting. On election day, she would walk the streets of London, getting blisters on her feet, meeting face to face with commoners as equals. Despite her fervor, she could not save the Whig party from splintering after her death. In 1796, 10 years before her death, she succumbed to illness in one eye. The medical treatment resulted in scarring on her face. However, those scars released from her fears, all the inhibitions about whether she was beautiful enough or whether she was up to the job left her. Associating with the Bluestocking Society enabled Georgiana, who derived from the Spencer family, just like Princess Diana, to develop close friends with female novelists and intellectuals. She herself was an avid writer, composing several works of both prose and poetry, of which some were published. She composed poetry to her father as a young girl, and some of it later circulated. It was read by Walpole, who said it was easy and prettily expressed, although it does not express much, and by Reverend William Mason, who was more favorable with higher opinions. In 1776, at the age of 19, she composed a poem, To Myself, which addressed the public perception of her as a young duchess to a man more than a decade her senior. The first of her published literary works was Emma, or The Unfortunate Attachment, a sentimental novel, published in 1773, 2 years before her depiction as a witch by Gardner. After the painting, in 1778, Georgiana released the novel The Sylph. Published anonymously, it had autobiographical elements centering on a fictional aristocratic bride who had been corrupted, and as a novel and exposé of the Duchess's aristocratic cohorts, depicted as libertines, blackmailers, and alcoholics. Georgiana is said to have at least privately admitted to her authorship, although recent scholarship suggests that it was Sophia Briscoe who wrote it. But Briscoe probably served as an intermediary between the Duchess of Devonshire and her publisher, so the Duchess could maintain anonymity. The Sylph was a success and was reprinted 4 times. All 3 women were intimate friends who shared a common passion for Whig politics and the arts. Damer sculpted the Viscountess Lamb and displayed such sculpture at the Royal Gallery, proving women in art have worked in multiple media and been appreciated in the West for centuries. The decision to portray Georgiana as a witch may have been based in her gambling habit, which left her so destitute by her 40s she begged her own mother for money. Whereas Lady Melbourne had been friends with Anne Seymour Damer since the early 1770s. The friendship with Duchess Georgiana was supposedly fairly recent, despite their shared connection in the Whig politician and writer Horace Walpole. So this 1775 pastel may in part be related to Melbourne's desire to celebrate her newfound friendship. While all 3 women are described as having enjoyed attending private theatricals and tableaux vivants, Daniel Gardner's choice of the cauldron scene from Macbeth can also be related to their shared and shadowy political machine as leading members of the Devonshire House Circle, which became a focal point for supporters of the leader of the Whigs, Charles James Fox. Adding to the witchery, Damer asked to be buried with her dog and sculpting tools in her will. Shakespearean scenes grew in popularity since the first decades of the 18th century. By the 1760s, the craze was well established in British visual culture. Macbeth, in particular, had undergone a significant revival with actor and theater manager David Garrick's revival of the play's original script, himself in the title role starting in 1744. He continued performing Macbeth until 1768. The Garrick Theatre stands to this day. Thomas Wilkes, in A General View of the Stage from 1759, attempted to describe the manner of Garrick's performance, specifically Garrick's unrivaled ability to capture and communicate Macbeth's psychological turmoil. There is not any character in tragedy so seldom hit off by the actor as Macbeth. Perhaps there are few more difficult, and in the hands of Garrick it acquires an inconceivable ease. It is curious to observe in him the progress of guilt from the intention to the act, how his ambition kindles at the distant prospect of the crown, when the witches prophesy, and with what reluctance he yields upon the diabolical persuasions of his wife to the perpetration of the murder. How finely does he show his resolution staggered upon the supposed view of the air-drawn dagger, until he is roused to action by the signal, the ringing of the closet bell. Due to the contemporary interest in the supernatural, the sublime, and the Gothic, the witch's appearance was one of the most popular scenes with theatre-goers of the time, and was one of the most frequently painted scenes from Shakespeare during the 18th century. Even today, "Bubble, bubble, toil and trouble" is a well-known line from Macbeth, and repeated around Halloween. The portrait's composition has no parallel in Gardner's oeuvre, which is almost entirely of portraits, and it's possible either Damer or Melbourne suggested the design. Melbourne is also thought to have commissioned the work because it descended through her family. Although there is no evidence of it being publicly exhibited at the time, contemporaries knew it existed. It is mentioned in Lady Mary Coke's journal of 1775, where she wrote of a drawing of the Duchess of Devonshire, Lady Melbourne, and Mrs. Damer, all being drawn in one picture in the characters of the three witches in Macbeth. They have chosen that scene where they compose their cauldron, but instead of finger of birth, strangled babe, etc., their cauldron is composed of roses and carnations, and I dare say they think their charms more irresistible than all the magic of the witches. Its popularity was such that the Duchess of Devonshire was also painted as the witch Circe. It is said painter Daniel Gardner made many of his own colors from strange herbs, which he collected in the woods, and especially from powders he made from bark and fungi. However, the majority of the dry colors used by Gardner appears to have been obtained from Masters Robertson and Miller of 51 Long Acre, London, as there are many allusions to their prices in his notebooks. Samuel Redgrave wrote about Daniel Gardner, "He had a nice perception of beauty and character, and composed with elegance." William Haley wrote in his essay on painting, Epistle 2, "Let candid justice our attention lead to the soft crayon of the graceful reed, nor Gardner shall the muse in haste forget thy taste and ease, though with a fond regret she pays, while here the crayon's power she notes, a sign of homage to the shade of coats." It's interesting Gardner chose to depict Damer to the side, alone and on her own, striking in black. It's possible Gardner knew Damer because Gardner received a silver medal from the National Gallery in 1771, and Damer exhibited there throughout her life. Gardner could also have had a soft spot for female artists. His mother, Mrs. Gardner, interested in art and impressed by the work of a young boy, used all her influence to encourage that painter, George Romney, to persevere, eventually interceding with his father to let painting be Romney's sole pursuit and profession. Romney then taught Daniel Gardner. The acquisition of the painting was a significant addition to the National Portrait Gallery's 18th century collections, where it helps present a more representative view of female achievement in the 18th century, contradicting feminist theory. While each of the three sitters was influential, due to her lasting interest to biographers, Georgiana, Duchess of Devonshire, remains one of the greatest celebrities of her day, not least due to her own authorship. The Three Witches of Macbeth is the first portrait the National Portrait Gallery acquired of Georgiana, Duchess of Devonshire, as an adult. It is also the first portrait it acquired of the Viscountess Melbourne. The National Portrait Gallery reported to be delighted to have acquired this portrait, which was allocated to it in February 2011 under the acceptance in lieu scheme by Her Majesty's government.